Maurice, I just saw you here for 8.2, discussion of traffic on 53rd Street in Oakland as a result of the diverter on 47th Street. Why don't you fix it, Maurice?
Easily done.
That's where we start. That's where we start.
Karen, are you turning on the lights?
It's all,
In
it's
the
dark
the
out
stairwell?
there. There's, like if someone was coming up the stairs.
You really should pay that PG&E bill.
Yeah. Well, if we had solar panels on the building. It's a little bit dark now.
No.
Ken, you're not, incorrect move.
Yeah. Not helping.
Atmosphere in a city council meeting.
Yeah. No counting, no dancing, Ken.
Ready?
Go ahead. I was.
Mayor Brinkman, members of the City Council, at the Transportation Committee meeting back in April and May of this year, we had some residents from the City of Oakland on 53rd Street that approached the committee to talk about traffic that's on 53rd Street and their claim that the traffic calming measures that were implemented by the city were potentially impacting traffic on their street. And with that conversation, the committee directed staff to come to the full city council to discuss the problem and give a brief update of, or brief summary of the project to the city councils, because a couple of the council members weren't on the council at the time, so maybe you need some of the background as to what we did on that project. So with that, back in 2005, as early as 2005, the city started working on discussions on traffic calming needs for that area. There's a lot of traffic that was cutting across between San Pablo Avenue and Adeline Street at that time, and residents within the triangle, community members were approaching council members and city staff to see if there's anything that could be done to mitigate the problem. In fact, Oakland took the lead in doing something there. They actually put in speed bumps on 53rd Street to try to resolve some of the cut-through traffic that was going on at that time. It took a number of meetings with the community groups in the triangle to come up with a trial program, and in 2007 we implemented a trial measure. And with that project, we installed diverters on 43rd Street, 45th Street, and 47th Street, and significantly changed the traffic patterns in the area. And within a few weeks after the city implementing those improvements, we had a full city council of residents complaining about not being notified, and there was a big push to remove those improvements. And within a couple months, we were able to mobilize another crew to change them, and we came up with a new plan, which essentially was a trial measure to put in traffic circles on 43rd Street, 45th Street, and we kept a diverter in at 47th Street. And from there, we actually studied the impacts of those improvements that we put in. And we took traffic counts, and we had a number of community meetings, and after that time, we had the city council approve a final plan for the traffic calming. And in May of 2008, the city council approved the final plan, and by March of 2010, the final improvements were complete. And in fact, there was about $1.8 million spent on this project, RDA funds we were lucky to have back then. But that project is done. We haven't really done any more studying on the project. I mean, the work's done. The residents seem to be happy. In fact, when we did slurry sealing the last time we did the work, some of the bollards came down at the diverters, and it appeared that some of the traffic speed humps that were put in on 47th Street were not going to be effective anymore. But after we replaced the striping and put in the bollards, everything calmed down and everything seems to be working fine in Emeryville. But given that we got this complaint from the city of Oakland, residents on 53rd Street, I went back to some of the historical traffic counts that we had in the area. In 2005, we had some traffic counts done for the Bakery Lofts project, which is now almost completing construction. And that was before we had done any traffic calming measures. And as you could see, in the morning, we had a total amount of traffic on 53rd Street of about 78 vehicles per hour, in the PM at about 105. In 2007, we had started implementing these trial measures. And as you can see, there was a jump in traffic on 53rd Street in 2007. And I kind of relate this to the fact that we had all these diverters in in the Triangle neighborhood in Emeryville, so there was a jump in traffic in 53rd Street. That's what I believe it could be from. But in 2012, we just took traffic counts for the recent traffic signal timing project we did, very recent. And as you can see, the numbers are very close, if not the same, as to what we had in 2005. So what I believe is happening is there's a perception that there's a change in traffic, but in reality, if you look at what we had back in 2005 to what was in 2012, we're relatively the same. So staff is really seeking direction from the City Council as to how you want to deal with this complaint. We could do further study if you choose to do so. And what we would have to do is do traffic counts on 53rd Street right now with the current condition. We could collect traffic counts, ADT counts for the full day. And then what we would do then is remove the bollards on 47th Street and allow traffic to go through there. And then let the traffic patterns change over the next 3-4 months. And then after that, people get used to that situation, we could do some more ADT counts on 53rd Street and compare before and after to see whether or not that diverter is really impacting traffic on 53rd Street. Because that's really what the claim is from these residents, is that the diverter that we left on 47th Street is really impacting the traffic on their street. So we could do that, but before we would do that, of course, I would suggest notifying all the residents in the traffic, in the triangle, that you would be pursuing this, and then there's expense for doing the project, taking the counts and then dealing with the public as we're going through this time. So we'd like to get your direction as to how you'd like to proceed, and that's right.
Let's have some public comment before we have discussion. Ken, is there anybody else up who would like to speak on this item? If you do, please follow Ken. You'll have 3 minutes.
Well, I want to make a couple of comments. Way back when we started redevelopment, I remember Natalie Baton telling me, well, you know what, you have all this construction, and we're going to put speed bumps all around you to limit the traffic that comes in. So that's what Oakland did. They put in those speed bumps, and they forced a lot of traffic on Emeryville streets. We weren't notified or considered. So when you look at the traffic speed bumps on 53rd Street, and you're going to make a choice, are you going to drive down 53rd or are you going to drive down 47th Street? Okay, we went through our triangle traffic calming. We got substantial response from the neighborhood before we adopted this plan. I didn't support the diverter on 47th Street, but the community was loud and clear that they wanted that in there. And that's why it's there. And so I don't know if it's really necessary to do all this. Maurice says there isn't that much difference in the traffic. And I think the people on 47th Street really want that diverter, even though I didn't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening.
Mayor Brinkman, and all of the council members, thank you for this third opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm a resident of 53rd Street. Thank you, Maurice, for the work that you're doing. The issue, I believe, is not centered so much about doing traffic counts, because, again, we, the residents, are feeling the brunt of any kind of traffic calming measure that causes traffic to be funneled from 47 feet wide, which is 47th Street, down to 53rd Street, which is only 29 feet wide. It's not so much the count of traffic, but it's the type of traffic that's coming down our street. Large construction trucks, just to name a few. Residents here have had car damage because of large, cargo trucks having to go down our street because they can't go through 47th, which is a wider venue. So I think it's important not to focus so much on counts, because maybe the residents should have more of an input. I wouldn't want decisions to be made by those that don't actually live on the street. I don't want to say, well, okay, we have so many counts that suffice this particular quota. But we, the residents, on a street that's car line, that's extremely narrow, are feeling any sort of diversion, any sort of traffic calming measure that's going to focus, or any spillover effort is negatively affecting us. I greatly appreciate the fact that we have this open door with the City of Emeryville, and I so appreciate being able to come and speak at the transportation meetings. But as the bakery lofts increase their occupancy rate, where are these cars going to go? Where are they going to go when they're going from San Pablo? They're going down through 53rd and 45th in Emeryville, other streets that are affected. even though it's not the cause of the increase of traffic counts, neither is it the panacea or the cure-all. But I believe an effort by the city of Emeryville, as Maurice has proposed, which is excellent, to remove those. If anything, it's a community gesture that we're working together to solve this problem. We know it's not the sole cause. However, right now, as the bakery lofts are increasing, as far as residents, where are the people going? 5 o'clock, I see it. I mean, it's taken me longer and longer to exit my own driveway because of there's so much traffic coming down our street. So even though I applaud the issue or the effort to have the traffic study counts, but it's a different type of quality of life issue. When we had a party bus that was so wide it could barely move, whereas 47th Street being 47 feet wide, I mean, we're just putting numbers here, the ease of being able to pass through. We have Emeryville fire trucks and police using our street as well, which, I just think that if we share the burden, and that spirit of cooperation that we've been fostering has been excellent, and I want to remain in that spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak?
Yeah, hi, my name is John. I'm a 53rd Street resident.
Hi, John.
I just wanted to sort of add on to what she said. It's about sharing. I've been on 53rd Street since 1987, and of course, I've seen tremendous development, all around, and was there long before there were speed bumps, and I didn't necessarily care for them either. But just to share the burden amongst everybody seems like a fair way to do it. If one person doesn't have to suffer and push their share of it on everyone else seems somewhat unfair. Also, maybe you could look at maybe doing some one-way streets or something, so they would get half the traffic or something like that, and that might certainly on 53rd Street, going up there and trying to pass when another car is coming is really tough, especially if it's a truck or something like that. So anyway, thank you all for
Thank you for coming.
reconsidering.
Okay, please.
I won't take long. You covered most everything. I've been on 53rd for 10 years, so right across the street from this nice park, Temescal Park, and there's some Emeryville residents also on 53rd Street. But it's the traffic, like she said, is not the big problem. It's the space to flow that traffic. When you come down the street, if there's two cars, they can't pass. You have to duck in. Hopefully there's a place to duck in, especially if there's another truck coming. So it slows the process, although people still go that way because it's a through street. If we had a dead-end street so residents could come and go one way or the other, it would eliminate that, but it would push everything over to another street. I just don't think it was very considerate. We support the city of Emeryville. We love it. We're close by. We go to all these places here in Emeryville, but it seems like we weren't considered at all, when they did this. And I've seen the change in the traffic over the 10 years, so it's frustrating. A lot of kids coming from the school right up the street. Just not right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? I won't forget about you, Andre.
Hi, my name is Katrine Benninger. I've been living on 53rd Street since 1999, and I'm really grateful to live very close to Emeryville. I consider myself a dual citizen, if I can say that, because you're doing so much great work. And I love city planning. I'm a landscape planner, or designer, rather. So we have a little street, and I know Oakland has made its own mistakes when San Pablo was reconfigured with turning lanes, etc. I think it would be really helpful if we could look at the bigger picture as a community. Right now, Lowell Street is getting developed also. There are going to be new townhouses. They're starting construction this fall, the Wilsons. So it's becoming this nexus almost of all these new developments. And as much as we welcome them, I'm a new resident in the neighborhood too compared to other people. There's a child care center on our street. It just gets to be a lot. And then Oakland wanted to even put the bike path on 53rd Street. And I said, well, that's just too much. So if there's a way that 47th Street could be tested, maybe one way, so it could take some of the transit in one direction and use the other in the other direction, like 53rd Street. I'm not sure, but I'm sure there are solutions that could ease some of the pressure on our little street without affecting our neighbors on 47th Street tremendously. That's my request and suggestion, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Carpio?
I know the city needs money, but each time I went to, the last 2 times, volunteer to make the bag at the senior center, I got a ticket, $58, and it's very frustrating. There is no parking, and I really don't see, I see it's aggravating to go to volunteer, and the parking is such that the ticket lady is just waiting. She makes a great day, you know, but that doesn't fit my schedule. So the other thing also is that, perhaps is with the department there, the ledge on the sidewalk are too sharp and too high, and I've seen many people busting their, not only their tire but the new wheel, and the new wheel they come in a set of 4, and so it's very expensive. So I think if we chamfer the turnaround, the ledge, then it would help. I mean, it's just no sense to add in frustration driving through there and having a flat tire, and everybody get up distracted for whatever. You avoid the dog, and next thing you know, you hit the curb, and you have a flat tire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carpio. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, I'm going to close public comment.
Yeah, Mayor Brinkman, thank you, Maxine, and all you residents of 53rd Street to coming forward. I know there's a significant problem there. The city of Emeryville was faced with those same problems back in the year 2000, and we spent, as Maurice has gone over the history of it, we spent a lot of years and a lot of money and enormous involvement of the residents in the triangle. And it took us time and, again, money to finally come to a situation where people are relatively satisfied with what's happening there. And I'm very sensitive to what you're saying, Maxine, because I've been on 53rd Street. I know how narrow it is, and I know the impact on the residents that live there. That being said, I've thought a lot about this, and I've thought a lot about, you know, you compare the width of 47th to the width of 53rd Street. It is what it is. But given that, I would, this is my own, I don't know how the rest of the council feel, but I feel that it behooves the city of Oakland to consider some of the solutions that we dealt with and we struggled with, and we took some real bashing on this. Not an easy problem in an urban area, but some of the solutions that may or may not work for 53rd Street. There are streets in Emeryville where we have signs, no traffic over a certain amount of tonnage. Yeah. Those signs should be on the east end of 53rd, and they should be on the San Pablo end. Again, down on Horton Street, where we have some serious traffic problems, we have local traffic only. That allows the police to ticket if people are going through. The other suggestion that this gentleman here suggested, that it is a narrow street. Maybe if you really got together a group of people in what I call your triangle, and that'd be from 53rd up to Stanford, bordered by Adeline and San Pablo. It's not just your street alone. All those streets have problems. Trying to upset what's happening at 47th Street, which, believe me, will be like setting a torch to gasoline with our folks on 47th Street. That's one way to go. I don't know how effective it will be in the long run. I would really encourage you to work with the City of Oakland people. Try these particular measures, these particular solutions, incrementally. See what happens. See if you can talk to the neighbors in 54th, 55th, and on up to Stanford to kind of take a look and go through the terrible trauma we went through trying to do traffic calming in the triangle. So I'm encouraging you to go to the City of Oakland. And some of these are very inexpensive. Some of the solutions, like making a dead end or a one-way street, are much more controversial, but they can be done, and especially with a street as narrow as you have. The one thing you can't do, because there's very few garages on that street, is eliminate street parking.
Right. Yeah.
That will never go. But you have some other options here before we set the torch to 47th Street. They're my comments.
Yes, Jennifer.
Yeah, I want to applaud you also for actively taking this on, because it's affects your lives greatly, I know. I agree with Nora. I think there are other things to try rather than, you talked about sharing the burden, which I understand, people do cut through, but I think taking control and taking initiative on your own street is most important, rather than trying to bring all the streets to a level that is burdensome, I guess, as you described. I thought also of the local traffic only signage, which would deter some, maybe not all. People who are familiar with the streets obviously would know, where they can get through and not. Or a weight limit, I thought was a great idea. There's also the fact that there's a signal on San Pablo with a left turn light. Now, anyone who's gone through that light knows how long it takes to trigger that signal, so a lot of us don't turn left on 53rd, but you're not allowed to do a U-turn also on 53rd, and I know a lot of people do, but maybe more would if it was legal, and why isn't it legal there, and maybe there's other implications, but that might keep some people off of 53rd, actually, if that were allowed as well. Just another thought. And then finally, I want to say that I work for an organization that looks carefully at bike and pedestrian issues and transportation issues. And making a street one way increases the speed on that street significantly, because cars don't have to do, as you described, pulling over and letting someone inch past. That, even as frustrating as that may be to have that level of congestion, it's probably the best thing that's happening on 53rd to keep traffic slow, because people can't assume that they can go straight down that street without impediment. And in fact, the narrowness of your street, as frustrating again as it is, and I feel terrible hearing about people having property loss as a result. I think that narrowness actually makes your street more of a pain in the neck to drive down than 54th and 55th and Eileen and others in that area. So I want to emphasize again the signage, and I'm curious if, I know that you've had support from Dan Kalb on the City Council in Oakland, and his staff attended our meeting as well for the Transportation Committee, and I'd be happy to weigh in with those folks if you're not getting a response, and have our support as an elected official in a neighboring city. My children and I bike on 53rd every day to go through the park to get to school in the morning, and when the park was closed, we spent a lot more time on 53rd, and it's very frustrating. So I share that. I think that there have to be some solutions that look at the whole area, not just at opening 47th.
Jack, do you have any comments?
No, I agree with all of that.
Maurice, what do we have on signage on 47th Street? Because I think we should forewarn trucks and...
Yeah, there shouldn't be trucks going down,
So
bar trucks going down that street.
So
Well, there shouldn't be through trucks anyway. I mean, we have our waste management trucks and various trucks that need to get through on 47th Street
Delivery
to serve
trucks.
delivery trucks and so on. But I can't recall whether or not we say no trucks,
Why
no
don't we-
through trucks. I'd have
why
to
don't we look at that and as putting some signage up there in Emeryville that forewarns and maybe it's a ticketed offense if we catch trucks, because there was a lot of construction there, the bakery lofts, and cement trucks are looking for the easiest way to get back home and the quickest way to get there to dump their concrete. So I think there's something we might be able to do to help a little bit in Emeryville, just with signage.
We'll take a look at that.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
Do we have traffic counts in 2005, 2007, and 2012 for 45th Street?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
I would have to take a look. A lot of those counts are actually on the internet, on our website, city website. I'd have to take a look to see what was taken there. But we were fortunate to have those counts at 53rd Street to be able to study this. And of course, we did several counts during several years when we were doing the studies through the triangle streets. So
My point being, I'm sure, John, you're kind of on the same page here, but what we don't know is whether that diverter on 47th has increased volumes on 45th Street because people can go through. And so it would be important to know if, in fact, some of that through traffic has shifted to 45th Street.
Well, we do have traffic counts that we took before we put the diverter in on, before we put the traffic circles in on 45th Street and before we did any of the improvements at all, so we can compare those. So we have that. In fact, we presented it to the city council at the time when we approved the traffic calming measures. I can research that and bring that back to you if you want.
Can you come back
I
to
can
us?
send you an email on it or however you'd
Yeah.
like to do it.
We've heard anecdotally from folks on 45th Street that they feel that the closure on 47th directly impacted and increased the traffic on 45th Street.
I mean, one could look at it that way, yes, because you can't get through on 47th Street.
That's right.
So it could potentially be doing that.
Okay. So you can gather more information, come back,
Or however you'd like to see it.
or send us an email, or go through the Transportation Committee, and
Or I can report back in my monthly
take it back to Transportation.
transportation
We'll come
committee. Sure.
back. Okay. City's the